a playlist original.
There's a difference between like and love. Because I like my Skechers, but I love my Prada backpack.
Bianca Stratford is the most popular girl at Padua High.
You're asking me out?
I'm down. I've got the 411, and you are not going out and getting jiggy with some boy. I don't care how dope his ride is.
Her sister, Kat, is something else entirely.
People perceive you as somewhat tempestuous. Heinous witch is the term used most often.
The only thing they have in common
I am the only girl in school who's not dating.
Oh, no, you're not. Your sister doesn't date.
is one simple rule.
Okay, you can date. When she does.
But she's a mutant. What if she never dates?
And you'll never date. Oh, I like that.
For Cameron,
No one will go out with her.
it's a problem.
And what about him? I heard he ate a live duck once.
So you two are gonna help me tame the wild beast?
Absolutely.
Touchstone Pictures presents a story for every guy who's ever tried.
You never give up, do you?
Was that a yes?
No!
Well, then was that a no?
No!
Every girl who's ever hoped.
This is not good.
And anyone who's ever been taken completely by surprise.
She kissed me.
Where?
In the car.
10 Things I Hate About You.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your hosts Gaius and Jackson. Another anniversary episode from the class of 1999, and we had to for this particular movie because any movie from this era is not complete with a guest spot from Mark J. Parker of the Release Date Rewind podcast.
Welcome back,
buddy.
Mark.
Hello.
Always happy to have you.
Thanks for having me, guys. We're this class of 99 over here. I'm into it. You know,
Yeah.
teens are like, it's like speaking my language. So I'm here.
I think we're living up to a promise from the beginning of the year. We knew that we'd be selecting a lot of movies to cover from this year, from 1999, and so far we've delivered on that promise, I'd say.
Yeah. There
Yeah,
are so
another good
many
day.
good
It's a
ones.
great
from that
year.
It's crazy. And like, not only good ones, like actually like, you know, highbrow, like award winning, obviously like so many good movies, but also just so many
Yep.
good fun movies like this.
Exactly,
you know?
and iconic, and everything
Yes.
in between.
Even the like not so good ones are still so fun. Like 1999 was just firing on all cylinders. I'm into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that think that there's an argument to me that it was the best year for movies. It ranks high amongst.
It's in the
a lot of people's
conversation
years.
for
Yeah.
sure.
It's definitely got to
Yeah.
be one of the top few. I mean, I'd have to really think back because I know, you know, the 70s, there was like a golden year or two there, and the 1939 with Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind was like a big one,
True.
right? But 99, yeah, I mean, that's why I should have brought I have my book. I think I might have told you about it before. Maybe Gaius when you were on my show. But there's a book called 1999. Like all about the great movies and just a nice like trivia history about lots of these great movies. So
I need to get
yeah.
my hands on some more books on film, like in that same vein. Those would be interesting reads.
Yeah, it's a really fun one, especially for you, Jackson, since you're such a baby. Because how old were you in 99 again? Were you born?
I was depending on the time of the year, I was only a few months old to a year old. I was born in 98.
Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah,
no,
it'd be fun
no.
for you to read it. Yeah, it's by an author, Brian Raftery, and I think it's called it's called Best Movie Year Ever: How 1999 Blew Up the Big Screen. Check it out.
Cool.
It's like
Okay.
on Amazon for cheap, and it's just easy to read, like little chapters on each big movie.
I would eat that up
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, and that'd be so fun for you to just see, like,
Definitely.
oh, okay, this was what was happening when I was,
Mhm.
and I had no idea.
Oh, we let.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What's interesting too for people that listen there now, they know the routine when you're on. There's certain types of movies that they're like, oh, like why wasn't he on that one? So like you weren't on Cruel Intentions, and I think I've explained before, but like just in case, like we try, like if you're like, hey, I'm going to do that one. We try not to like cross-pollinate it too much, but if you're like, hey, I'm not doing that one, I would love to be on if you'll have me. So we
Totally,
try to,
yeah.
work
I
it
love
out where
that.
it kind of works out for both of us. So that is
Thank
why
you.
you won't hear him on certain ones from this era. But
Yeah,
I did reach out to
sadly.
you pretty
Yeah.
early on. I was like, do you want to do 10 Things I Hate About You, which is what we're doing today? And you were like,
Yeah.
yep, let's do it.
Totally. I said I can't do Cruel because I'll focus on that one for mine, just because, and I'd be happy to talk about it more, but then I feel like I'm repeating myself. So anyone that listens to both, you're like, all right, I'm not getting any new info here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And you don't want to burn yourself out on
It's
one movie as
definitely-
well. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So now we're here for 10 Things, which is another amazing cast, another great soundtrack. I mean, I'm excited to nerd out about this one.
Yeah, me too. A lot, for all you kids out there, this came out on March 31st, 1999, the same weekend as The Matrix. So what a interesting weekend for
counter
movies at that
programming,
time.
right?
Yeah, counter programming.
Yeah.
This was is it Gil Junger or Younger? How to pronounce the director's name? He was a TV director. His film directorial debut. Karen McCullough Lutz and Kirsten Smith wrote it. This is also the first screenplay they ever sold as well. It stars Julia Stiles, Heath Ledger. This was a breakout role for both of them at the time. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he was the name in the cast because he was on Third Rock from the Sun and had been in Angels in the Outfield.
Nice. He looks so young in this movie because he is, but I wouldn't have thought he was established at this point.
Yeah, he actually looks younger than, because we talked about Halloween H2O last year, and he's in the opening.
Yeah, he's in that.
Yes, yeah.
He almost seems, maybe because he's wearing the hat in that one, but he almost seems younger here than in that movie. So I wonder when they.
No. He's got hard baby face going for sure.
So
Yeah,
he's cute all the time. I love him so much, and I've always had a crush on him. But in this movie, oh my god, he's just so cute. He really looks. I mean, a lot of them. It's one of the few teen movies that
they
many
cast
of them
age
don't
appropriate
look too old. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And not to forget Larissa Olenek, who was on The Secret World of Alex Mack back in the day, a show I used to watch on Nickelodeon. Gabrielle Union also in the cast, probably the oldest person in the cast. We can talk about that at one point too. And then, of course, Allison Janney in supporting roles, Larry Miller as well. The film is a loose adaptation of The Taming of the Shrew, retold in a late 1990s American high school setting. The film follows a new student named Cameron James, who is spinned with Bianca Stratford and attempts to get bad boy Patrick Verona to date her antisocial sister Kat in order to get around her father's strict rules of dating. And when it was released on March 31st, it opened to great critical acclaim, and it actually made a decent amount of money, $60.4 million on a $13 million budget. The fact that it didn't really have huge stars and opened against The Matrix, that is a pretty good box office total, and it has gone on like many other movies we had talked on here to become a huge cult classic in its own right. A lot of people consider this probably the best one or one of the best ones from this time period, at least screenplay wise and cast wise. But Jackson, this is your first time seeing it.
That's right.
And we haven't talked about it at all.
I just wrapped up the watch. Yeah.
So what are your Cliff Notes thoughts on this movie?
Positive viewing experience. I'll just get that off the bat. I mean, there are certainly things I'm always going to be a little bit biased with, like not having my 90s nostalgia goggles on while watching stuff like this for the first time. So there's a couple things that I'm not huge on, like from the 90s era, that are nitpicks and stuff. Like honestly, there were some great soundtrack beats in the movie. There was some I didn't really resonate with, probably just because I was a child. Right. But overall, it was a really fun watch. Definitely accentuated by the fact, like I said off screen just before, I did not realize this is a Shakespeare adaptation, loose as it may be. I always, for whatever reason, I'm big on Shakespeare. I loved him ever since high school. I love finding out movies are adaptations of his works, even though I had never read or even come across The Taming of the Shrew. Definitely elevates that for me too, because I just got such a bias towards him. He's one of the greatest storytellers. So that was really, really cool to find out after the fact, and a great story too. Like you mentioned, cast are firing on all cylinders here. I knew going in, there was very, very little about 10 Things I Hate About You that I knew before the watch. I had known the infamous or famous scene where Julia Stiles delivers the titular poem in class, and I had seen probably just on YouTube the Heath Ledger's song and dance routine at the stadium. But beyond that, I knew it was the Heath Ledger and Julia Stiles show. I didn't know Joseph Gordon-Levitt was in this movie, and was surprised to find out, at least for a bulk of the film, it is very much like his story, or at least his ambitions are kind of what kicked the movie off, which I was surprised to find out. I thought it was like Heath's real, I thought he was kind of like the quarterback of the movie. And I think by the end, it definitely transitioned some more. Yeah, for sure. Which was also just kind of interesting, but was overall happy with the watch. I didn't really know what I would expect coming out of it. Cause it kind of has, at least for me and my generation and the people that haven't seen it, I think it has this female connotation to it. It's like one of those chick flick, if you will.
A chick flick.
And so that's kind of just kind of how I like secondarily associated it, and I didn't really know where I would kind of land after I'd seen it. But I thought it was charming and a great, snapshot of the late '90s. So it was ultimately a pretty fun watch.
Yeah.
What I want to ask you before I get to Mark really quick, because like you mentioned it being like it feeling like a chick flick. So I was trying to compare it to something that we've done on the show together already, and I guess the closest thing would be Can't Hardly Wait. So do you seem like that? Do you think that was like a chick flick, like when we were watching it, or
no? I didn't get those vibes from Can't Hardly Wait. And even then, after watching it too, I should clarify, like it. Although I mean, both screenwriters were women. Am I right? Yeah. I think they did a fantastic job at rounding out all the characters in this movie. It didn't feel like that connotation was earned. I think maybe by people that haven't seen it might just kind of lump it into that category. Thought it was really smartly written and how it handled all the cast and characters in the movie. So definitely more of a well-rounded picture than I would have associated it as being beforehand, and that's my own ignorance at play there. But after seeing it, like I would definitely recommend it to anybody that I think would enjoy movies from like this period for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark, when did you first see this?
That's a great question. I don't remember if I saw it in theaters. I definitely saw The Matrix in theaters for sure. I was probably I was about to turn, I think 12. I think I was about to turn 12. So yeah, I don't know if I saw this one in theaters. If I didn't, I definitely saw it as soon as, you could rent it or watch it on TV. And I do remember it's a fun one. And it's funny, going back to what you were saying, Jackson, about how, it's sort of considered a chick flick, but actually there are more, I feel like, important male roles than female roles.
I agree.
Roles,
yeah.
Right? Like we have Gabrielle Union, who's great, but she's very like kind of supporting, secondary. So you really just have the sisters, but then you have Heath, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, you have David Krumholtz, who's so funny as Joseph,
and Andrew Keegan,
and Andrew Keegan. So it's funny how because it's like a love story. It's just sort of kind of marketed very sort of feminine, But it's fun to see some connections to She's All That, which came out just 2 months prior. Which, Gaius, you were on my show to talk about that, about the bet. And kind of like turning this mess of a girl, into something, and there's even like a real world connection. It's funny to like, She's All That, Matthew Lillard's on The Real World, and here they're watching The Real World in Seattle. So I thought that was funny. But so I don't remember if I saw it in theaters. Did you see it in theaters, Gaius?
I saw it in theaters, and the only reason I distinctly remember it because it did come out the same weekend as The Matrix, and then I remember going back to school the Monday. And everyone was talking about The Matrix, and me and my friends were sitting there like, "Oh, we didn't see The Matrix." Like we were like, and then we tried to blame it on the girls, like, "Oh, the girls were gonna go see 10 Things I Hate About You," and then we ended up seeing. We saw The Matrix like the following weekend.
Okay, I was about to ask you if you did see it. Yeah, I figured.
But we felt very silly that we saw this instead. But we had fun when we saw it in theaters. Like it was like, I mean, these movies at this point. This whole like the start of this year, there was just a bunch of them, so we were having fun with them at this point. So we weren't like mad that we saw this, but comparing the two movies where everyone was talking about this like innovative, like sci-fi-ish action movie, and we were not part of that movement that opening weekend. I was like, well, no, we saw the girly teen movie instead. But a lot of those people that saw The Matrix that first weekend, some of them ended up seeing this movie that following weekend, and they were talking about it too. So it was like at that time and a little after too. It was of the ones that came out around that time. I think Cruel Intentions was slightly ahead of it for most people, just because it was like the dirty one. But I think over time, this one became the one that you didn't have to really be embarrassed about because it was smarter than the rest of them for a lot of people, and it's pretty funny. Like I think up until like Logie Borenstein's party, that the script is like on fire. Like the dialogue's really good. Like there's a lot of it that like is whip smart. Yeah.
It's just like the right amount of raunchy. Cause like I remembered very well Allison Janney, who isn't really in it that much.
She's not. No,
she has so many deleted scenes, dude. They cut so many of her scenes. But I think because a lot of them are very like borderline that could be R-rated, but they are on the Blu-ray. They're funny, but I think that's why
you should have seen her opening scene. I was like, well, this is so like hot, definitely like more than I thought we were getting with like some of her dialogue and what she's
right.
You're
like, what was this rated? Right, but I remembered her beginning scene. So, and that's funny, Gaius, that you bring up the deleted scenes, because as soon as you said that, I remembered like seeing them years and years ago Yeah, that's funny that she did do more. Because I mean, yeah, it's bordering on like, what did she say? Pulsating member and like
yeah,
quivering member. I'm like,
yeah.
and I remember that so well because I, as a kid was like, oh, okay. And this is a few months before American Pie. So, and Cruel Intentions was raunchy for sure, but we kind of knew that. Like that's instantly
it was going
like
for that. Yeah.
You know, this is so candy colored and very, very much like Never Been Kissed, which came out a couple weeks after, which I love. I won't be able to fit that on my show either, but I love that one too. So yeah, to see a guidance counselor or whatever she is she the prince?
Yeah,
she's not the principal.
Guidance counselor.
Yeah. To see, right, and then how she's talking to Heath Ledger about like bratwurst and like I'm just like,
oh, wow. She like looks down and she's like, "Aren't she the optimist?" I was like, "Whoa,
yeah." And did you guys see? Apparently, a few years ago, someone posted a picture of her in character. I just love her curls, her hair, and honestly, I have done the same thing at day jobs. I've been like not writing that kind of stuff, but writing like my screenplays or something like in an office job. I can totally relate to being like, I should be doing work, but I'm going to just be writing my thing here. But did you guys see, I guess a few years ago, someone posted a picture of her, like a still from the movie, and she commented saying, what is this? What was I in that I don't remember? I guess she like totally forgot she was in this movie.
Oh,
really,
wow.
she does like, like to party. So maybe, memories just get a little foggy.
For sure.
But I thought that was so funny. I guess she just forgot. She probably didn't work on it a ton. I bet probably just a couple days in that office.
Right? Pretty quick. Yeah.
So that's funny.
I like what you said about the cast earlier. It is a fresh-faced group of actors, and I think it helps that most of them are all age appropriate. I got Julia Stiles was 17, Larissa Oleynik just turned 17 when it started, Joseph Gordon-Levitt was 17, David Krumholtz was 20, Heath Ledger was 19, Mandela, the girl who plays Mandela, Susan Putt, was 24. Gabrielle Union was 26. I can't remember if I'm missing anyone, but like that was the most. Yeah. So most of them were all pretty much age appropriate making the movie. And I think that actually helps with, because, Gabrielle Union also looks like, it doesn't matter that she was 26 when she made the movie. And I mentioned it when we did Heather's yesterday, because Jackson was like, do like people lie about their ages to like do these kind of movies? And I was like, Gabrielle Union, they said it on the commentary that she lied and said she was 23 when she got the part. And they're like, and we found out later that she was 26. And Larissa Oleynik said that Gabrielle Union definitely took her out to go get cocktails because Larissa Oleynik had the PA's fake ID. And that's how they were going out to like to go.
I
love
that.
Yeah, but they said most of the stuff that they did, which was pretty tame, but they said it was all like maintained at the hotel that they were staying at, and Heath Ledger's room was like the hub of all that stuff. They said nothing too crazy other than like, what you do when you're that age, like drink beer and smoke weed, and like that was kind of like what they did. And I guess he got there like a week later than everyone else. So they were like, oh, I wonder if he's going to like fit in. And then they said that he showed up with like his didgeridoo and a bunch of other stuff. And then like,
I have heard that.
This guy's going to be great. And then they all got along with him.
I heard, or I read rather, the cast had a great summer filming together. They were all good friends. But as shooting went on, and Heath joined a little bit late, which I'm curious as to why, like just shooting schedule maybe?
Probably just shooting schedule, because they said he missed the table read too. He was in Australia for the table read. He wasn't even there for that either. I feel like
because he is from Australia. I know the character's from Australia, but Heath was Australian, right?
I had to Google that, but yes, from Perth, I believe.
So I think around that time, I forget the name, but I think he was on an Australian TV show, if I remember correctly. Like either during or like right before this. So maybe that had something to do with it, because also in the beginning of the movie, he pops in and out, but it's kind of about those other characters. Like you were saying, Jackson, like, I kind of forgot that like, it's actually sort of Joseph Gordon-Levitt. It seems like it's going to be his movie, like if you ignored all the credits and posters or anything, like you would think he's kind of the lead. But then it switches. It's kind of actually, and true Shakespeare, it's a little complicated, like he wants her, she can only do this if she does that, she likes him, like everyone kind of likes
Joey involved.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting too that it's funny because I guess Julia Stiles and Joseph Gordon-Levitt dated while they did this. And then like Larissa Olenek and him were not that close because they said that Joseph Gordon-Levitt at the time was very serious, even though he was young. He took his acting very seriously, and then she got cast as his girlfriend on Third Rock from the Sun, and she said that they were both like, "Oh, we're doing this again," like, because they didn't really but they ended up becoming better friends afterwards. Yeah, but yeah. She said like Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Julia Stiles were like scampering off and like hanging out, and they dated for a while, like that at least that summer while they were filming the movie.
So interesting. I like that couple. Yeah, it's funny, thinking back at this time in March '99. Yeah, we didn't know Julia Stiles or Heath Ledger. They were kind of new.
No.
So it's interesting that they're perfect. They are perfect in these roles. But at a time when like names, it's much like today, but like especially then for like teen movies, like having like name people meant something, so they kind of took a risk on them. And actually I feel like for us like teens and tweens, the most well-known people were the people on TV, Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Third Rock and Larissa on Nickelodeon, right? Because Andrew Keegan was kind of it's funny,
he's in Camp Nowhere.
Camp Nowhere, which I love, which is turning 30 later this summer. I love that one. And he was like a heartthrob. He was in all the teen magazines, and it's funny because he like kind of lost his heartthrob status not long after this. You would think he would have, like he didn't end up like getting bigger. So so it's just funny how sometimes like casts like this, the more famous people at the time are the sidekicks, and then stars rise in different ways.
And then like oddly enough, him and Julia Stiles were in another Shakespeare adaptation together. Like Andrew Keegan and her were in O, which is like a high school like it's like a high school retelling of Othello, which is actually a really good movie.
Very good.
It got delayed a lot because of the Columbine high school thing. It was supposed to come out in '99, and they didn't release it until 2001, so they shelved it for a really long time. But
I remember
she's actually in 3 Shakespeare adaptations. Julia Stiles is in Hamlet with Ethan Hawke. She's in this, which is
he was sort of like dubbed the like modern Shakespeare girl.
Oh, interesting.
And I want to talk about the Shakespeare angle for a bit, because they when they were talking about the Taming of the Shrew, I guess I didn't know this until later, but apparently the Taming of the Shrew like is pretty misogynistic. I didn't know this going until I researched it a bit, and that like basically the Patrick Verona character, to make the cat character in that play more desirable, would like basically like make her eat more and drink more, and I try to make her have more fun, so she's not as like, and then kind of dumb her down so she's not as intelligent. And that was one of the things they wanted to change desperately for this, and I think they did, because they made Kat like kind of uber young feminist,
definitely an intellectual,
an intellectual, and she's very much equals with Patrick. Like she's not, like even though he is playing her, because she doesn't know that there's this whole like bet and all that, they are still on like the equal playing field. But I did want to ask, like, do you think the whole connecting to Shakespeare is what makes this screenplay a little bit smarter than the other kind of teen comedies that were coming out around that time?
I'd like to have been more familiar with the source material to like be able to answer that a little bit more fully. And like I only found out after watching like the connections, and I still don't know much about the Taming of the Shrew. I did, just by the nature of the storyline, definitely rings very misogynistic, and women being treated as property and such. So I think part of what makes it so slick and more intelligent is the changes that they do make to the screenplay to kind of like make it a little bit more digestible for modern audiences, while still fundamentally adapting the story, which is definitely easier said than done from a screenwriting perspective, I would imagine. I couldn't imagine actually, but
I mean, I think probably for sure it made it a smarter film to update Shakespeare. And I know these the screenwriters, I think they went, if I remember correctly, they went on to do The House Bunny, and I think they wrote the first Legally Blonde.
Yes,
so they've written
did.
some.
They did. Yeah.
Right.
Is Reese
and they also
House Bunny as well?
No,
not her. Okay.
Right.
A different blonde.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Right. A different funny blonde. But I think also though, so updating Shakespeare definitely helps because it's classic and it's fun and we know it works. So it's very smart. And it's interesting comparing this to other movies at this time, because She's All That was an update. and then Cruel Intentions was an
Pygmalion, right?
update.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pygmalion,
Yeah.
a little of like My Fair Lady, right? So we weren't getting remakes, but we were getting teen high school updated versions, because then of course Cruel Intentions with Dangerous Liaison. So it's interesting how like this was like this trend, and then there were more.
And Clueless is like an
later
update of Jane Austen's.
Yeah,
too.
I think
a lot of these
Clueless
are.
was the one that's like really jump started this kind of like take old, dusty but classic stories and put them in high school, right? Because it worked, and it pretty much works for every one of them, at least of this era. But I think also their script is so good because of like the Allison Janney moments, the lines, it's just raunchy enough. It's not as raunchy as American Pie was going to be in a couple months, right? But there's definitely like some sexual tension in the air with everyone, and it's still in the safe PG-13 realm.
Yes.
But everyone's got some fun, sassy things to say, not as sassy as like Jawbreaker and Cruel Intentions, right? But I think there's some great jokes. I wrote a lot down. Some lines didn't really age well. Like
There was one that stood out to me.
There
was one that stood out to me when she was. I think Bianca's talking to her about. She's mad because like
on the staircase.
And she's like, "Can you find some blind deaf retard to take you out?" And I was like, "Jesus."
Oh,
1999 was a different time.
I was like, when that line's living, I'm like, there it is. Yeah,
the delivery was like on point. Like, kudos to you or something.
I mean, it was funny, and we didn't know any better when it was out.
Sure.
So but it's like, oh, okay, that didn't age well. Or like when the girls, because their dad, who I love their dad, what a great
one of the highlights for me.
It's they did not, between him and it's really just him and Allison Janney. Oh, and then the teacher, the English teacher, he's got some fun.
Morgan.
Yeah. So I mean, they didn't skimp on some fun supporting adults, but when because he delivers babies, and I love when he later puts the pregnancy belly
on her.
But I noticed that the girl, I think it's Larissa's character, she says he's like, do you know what she said when I delivered her baby, a 15-year-old girl, when I delivered her baby today? And she said, I'm a crack whore and I shouldn't have, or something like that. And I'm like, and I'm just like, ooh, that's an assumption.
He just goes close, but no.
Yeah.
And
so there are a couple of things like that. And I am surprised for a screenplay written by women. And again, 1999 was a different time, far different than now.
True.
Because I've even said before, and you guys have probably said, like, so many great teen movies of this era, but the late 90s were a little mean. There were like some gay jokes, some fat jokes, not in this, but like just in movies in general. Like comedy was a little harsh towards each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I am surprised for a script written by women that we do hear the word bitch quite a lot. Like men everyone's kind of calling Kat a bitch. Her sister,
Joey more than once. Like, he's like, watching that bitch violate my car does not count as a date. Which is like also great. Like,
right. Or whoops or whatever. But I just thought that was an interesting sort of thing to look back on. Like, wow, okay, I guess that was, again, it's a bad word, but we say it all the time, and we say it jokingly most of the time, I feel like now. But just like interesting to see everyone calling this girl a bitch, and she just kind of like takes it, it's interesting.
For me, a lot of that ties into the fun that I have with watching movies from this period for the first time, just to see how far we've come, how different the atmosphere around certain things is. So it's interesting it's like stepping back into a time capsule, which I get a lot of enjoyment out of. Although sometimes it's cringe inducing, but very important nonetheless if you enjoy studying movies, for sure.
What I need to pay more attention to now is seeing if there was a huge difference from the jump from like the 80s movies like this to the 90s, as far as like how mean. I mean, I know we just did Heathers and that was mean spirited, but I mean before that, like what were they really mean spirited, and like, or was it just like this thing in the 90s where they became kind of very mean spirited?
I feel like the 80s, there might not be much of a difference, but I just remember some 80s comedies. I mean, like, some of these jokes, even what was it? Oh, like the Monster Squad. I love the Monster Squad. But like movies like that, like they say like the FAG word a couple times. Like, so I think
they say that in Monster Squad.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there was that, and then there was another movie of the 80s that I was like, oh, okay, we're saying that quite a lot. So yeah, I think there was just, I think for a while there, I don't know when the shift changed, that like friends in movies, like close friends, would make fun of each other and like say some pretty harsh stuff, even in Scream, like the way like Billy and Stu and they treat Randy like, oh, you fuck rag, like just like weird harsh stuff. It's like, whoa, I never called my friend that, but it was just the time, I guess.
I think there's the transition comes around the end of like the John Hughes era, and I'm not so familiar with what he put out in the 90s, if anything at all, but like that's just kind of like the benchmark that I use, like to differentiate between the tone from 80s to 90s, at least movies of this category, like the teen movies, because his were so wholesome, even though there was definitely material like what you kind of just described. It just didn't come across as it does in some of these later 90s movies as like so harsh and offensive for the sake of being offensive.
Yeah,
totally.
I also too, because we've covered this a lot with some of these movies from this era. I don't recall hearing any gay jokes in this too. Like, and I know we've covered a lot of these movies from this era, and there's not really. I think there's not really a gay joke, but when like Michael David Krumholtz is quoting Shakespeare to Patrick, he's like, hey, don't say shit like that in front of me. People will hear you. Like that's the closest thing that would probably be, and that's it. Like pretty.
Yeah, no, and it's funny,
and it's refreshing not to hear like that in like this. At least,
right. Yeah, because I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt in that same moment says like, yeah, we're your guys in a non-prison kind of way. Yeah, like it's cute. It's not offensive, and then I know later Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Larissa are like under a bridge, they're like hanging out, and they're trying to figure out if that's like a lesbian, but it's cute. It's good dialogue. Yeah, I wouldn't say any of that's offensive or anything. So that's all I dwell. Yeah.
What'd you guys think of the high school? Because when I was watching it for this, I was like, dude, it legit looks like Hogwarts. It doesn't even look like an actual high school.
I'm not sure if there were any like big exterior shots earlier in the movie. I only really noticed towards the end there's a big, either a crane, or I'm sure this was probably pre-drone, but there must be a big either a helicopter or crane shot that shows the school in its entirety. I'm like, that is a fucking castle. Like that is like Hogwarts. That didn't cross my mind, but you're right. It's such a great comparison. I was like, what kind of high school is this? But supposedly it was an actual high school. I think it was.
Oh, it really was?
The original concept for the building was like a train station or something, I think. Wow. And then there was some fire damage, and then it was kind of remodeled to become a high school. But yeah, legit, it was all filmed on actual locations, no sets for the movie, which I read, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. They saw, the director saw the high school. They were supposed to shoot in LA, and they had 3 weeks before they were supposed to start shooting, and they were up there and saw that high school. They're like, no, we're shooting the entire movie here. And so they said they didn't find out till the table read that they were all shooting in Washington after that, because it was all supposed to originally shoot in LA. But I think, it gives it a specific look, which is nice, but it definitely feels like movie high school. It doesn't feel like it's the high school of my dreams, I guess. I went to a fairly nice high school, and but it didn't, nothing like that.
Oh my god,
it looks,
this is like, I guess
it fits the Shakespeare tone. I guess it looks like
I was gonna say it's actually great because it feels like Shakespearean. So that's probably why they liked it.
This movie's quite sunny for Washington, it seemed, because that's a notoriously rainy, damp climate, right? In that state, true. Which I wouldn't have guessed until the end that it was all.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, you're right. It's. I still never been to Seattle, but I would think, it's going to be some rainy days, but everything is so sunny and Californian totally. That's funny. Yeah, I love the school, but I do remember, that's one of the things I wrote down. I was like, I had forgotten, because I haven't rewatched this in a long time. I've seen clips, of course, and they always pop up on social, him singing and stuff, but the full movie I hadn't watched in probably close to 20 years. It's been
what was that like? Kind of I didn't get to like revisiting that after that long. Like, did it feel,
was there a lot
I forgot that I actually like remembered a lot of it. Like I remembered even like songs, so I guess I had seen this a good amount of times that like even like I can't think of them now, but like it's cool to be kind, like just different songs to play. I'm like, oh that's from this. So it was a fun rewatch. I do think this movie, for whatever reason, in a sea of so many teen movies, it really does stand out. And I think it's part of like the way it just looks. It looks nice, well lit, it's bright, and like her hair is so long and blonde. Like when she's dancing, which it's funny to see. It's funny to know
at the party.
2 years later, she does Save the Last Dance, right?
Yeah.
So it's funny to see, like, she actually does have some great moves. you know, but just like I remembered very well, like her long flowing hair moving around, and Heath is just so charming. So yeah, it was a great rewatch. It's just funny how like certain things it's like you forget about them, but then as you're playing it, a second before it happens, you're like, oh yeah, she says that. Oh yeah, that song plays, you know?
Right.
So when's the last time you had seen this, Gaius? Did you see it more recently?
I've seen it more recently. Like it's one of probably one of my favorite ones from that time period.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't watch it like all the time, but it was fairly recent, like within like last couple of years.
Yeah,
so, like it. Yeah, so like I enjoy it. I think it's also really it's like what 97 minutes. It's not even that long.
Oh, it's
so
nice and fast.
No, it's quick.
It flies by. Yeah,
I have to say it's so fast that what do you guys think of the ending? Because I had forgotten, you know, much like She's All That. You know, she finds out that it was all, you know, a bet, a whole thing, you know, and so she finds out at prom, which I just love that all these movies take place at prom. Like
prom.
So many movies, like okay, we're going to prom again, right?
Yeah,
but what do you guys think? I feel like she's obviously upset with him and disappointed that like she even says something like, "Oh, like I knew that you had other intentions" or something like that.
Oh,
right?
Nothing in it for you, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Nothing because she was suspecting something, you know. And I do love that scene. I think it's when they're doing paintball or right after.
After the paint.
Yeah. She's like suspecting, and he is so good because he's obviously acting, and then he's acting like he's lying, you know, and it just feels so like they are really dynamite together. But anyway, I just feel like, you know, she finds out, she's upset, she leaves, but then there's only like 10 minutes left in the movie, and then like she kind of like they there's a solution that comes very quickly. I feel like. Did it feel a little fast for you guys?
It did.
Yeah.
By watching it, it felt like all is forgiven as long as you buy me a guitar. That's what like
even before that,
even before that, I guess. Yeah,
her delivery of the poem, like I don't think there's any interaction between them before, like after that, the freak out at the prom, and then her delivering the poem, which is basically like, I forgive you without saying as much like you know, this is shitty what you did. I still, you know, I don't hate you at all, which felt like he kind of gets let off the hook quite easy.
Yeah,
but a nice detail though that he buys a guitar, like that was a very thoughtful gesture.
And I'm assuming he bought it with like the bet money, right? Like, that's what's
he did.
That's sweet.
So there's that, but it is. There's no scenes of her really reconciling what he did. I guess.
Yeah, it's
I guess like maybe I thought the poem was enough. Like
I guess so.
Like
yeah. But it's interesting because like I don't know. I guess before the poem, she has a nice moment with her dad, who's finally like basically cool with her going away for college. But yeah, I don't know. And not that I need the movie to be longer. Like the movie's a perfect runtime. But I just thought that was funny that it's like, oh, okay, we're already at the poem. Okay, she's not like talking to other people much. She has like a nice chat with her sister. And, you know, it's just funny because like she doesn't really talk to many people to kind of get some perspective like you would see in other movies where it's like, you know, just weighing all the options. She just kind of writes the poem and then they're kissing and there's the guitar and smash cut to credits with the band on top of the school.
Yeah.
Random.
Well,
but, you know.
So random to me.
It's random, but it's such a thing from that where you just forget.
It's cute.
It felt very not like of the time too.
I can see you like rolling your eyes.
You could picture it. That's exactly what happened. Also, come to find out too, supposedly, according to one of those bandmates, were quoted as saying that supposedly each time the helicopter like took off to perform that shot of them on the school was, for whatever ludicrous reason, it was $500,000 for that shoot. Just for that scene alone. For what though? Like there's no practical reason for the band to be on top of the school with no audience other than for it to be like a nice little cherry on top for a 90s movie. I thought that was really poor budgeting.
I'm surprised they did that for the budget, because this was this is Touchstone Pictures, but this is like part of Disney where they would like do their like PG-13 rated, like, you know.
I didn't know there was a relation there.
They're not Disney. They're not Disney fair, but I'm surprised they even gave that, like, they're like, hey, why are you wasting money on this like helicopter
shot? Yeah.
And you know, I have to say, my phone just died. I can look up on the computer, but I don't know who the DP is, the cinematographer, but there are some really cool shots that like you don't necessarily think of in a teen movie. Like even when we are kind of being introduced to Kat's house, like the camera's like up high and then goes through the window, like, so they really had some, and even I love like kind of following Heath into the club where like the band is playing and like he goes to the bar, so there's some really cool choreography with the camera, and I guess they just wanted to finish it with this big shot that I totally agree. It is funny because like,
see who the cinematographer was. I just saw like your eyes.
Did you see my face?
I just looked at it too. I just looked at all the movies. And I was like, I would never guess this shot.
No, me either. So you're gonna love this, Mark. It's the DP is Mark Irwin, who shot Scream.
Oh,
and Old School and RoboCop 2
and Videodrome and the Dead Zone. Like he did. Some
David Cronenberg in there.
Yeah,
too. That's awesome.
I was actually done a whole variety.
I was not expecting all these movies.
No,
wow,
American Pie 2.
Okay.
Yeah, he's great. So that's interesting.
Pretty cool.
Wow, but yeah, I agree. The band, it's almost like one just like little critique about the bands is like, well, first of all, we don't really know that she loves like she wants to start a band until kind of like halfway through the movie, if I remember correctly.
Something like maybe even later.
Like like we know she reads and she writes and she's very smart, but we don't really know she loves music until a little late. And then then they introduce like some band stuff with like that rock club and then prom, but like it's all a little later. So then to end the movie with a band on top of the high school is a little random, but fun. It's fantasy. It's kind of fantasy, exactly. It's like like teen rom-com. There's a little bit of fairy tale.
I'm glad this came up organically because I had it written down to address at some point if it didn't come up. So now the itch is scratched. I'm glad we touched on it.
Yeah.
And I know we skipped to the ending, but I just wanted to mention it while I'm having it in my brain. The director on the Blu-ray said the poem was one take. And that was it. He like that, and I was surprised to hear that he said he was in tears after. She wasn't supposed to cry. It wasn't written that way. Yeah. It wasn't written for her to cry, but like it was. Yeah, they said.
I love that she cries and she starts crying. I think on the word "cry," her voice breaks. Yeah, I love it. I mean, she really is. It's interesting. Julia Stiles has had such an interesting career because we all know her. She's famous, yet she doesn't work a ton. She's not like a mega star. I remember one time I saw her in the pouring rain. I think we were having like a hurricane in New York City years ago. Saw her walking by. I was at Dallas BBQ, great restaurant with great drinks. So I was buzzed a bit, and it was in the East Village. And I saw her just walking in the rain with like a Dwayne Reed, like like a Walgreens bag, soaking wet. And she looked at me and like I smiled because I'm like, oh my God, that's a very wet Julia Stiles. And she gave me this smile where she knew that I knew her. Like she's like, she just kind of like gave me a nod, like, yeah, it's me. And like we didn't say anything. She just kept walking. So she seems really cool. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like we all know her. She's a great actress.
She's like easy to blend in. Like she has like a look where it's like she's not like. I guess not movie star beautiful. I think she's pretty, but like she just seems normal. And I think but you're right. She is in a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
but
like
it doesn't feel like she should be more famous. Like she's in the Bourne movies. I always forget that she's in those.
Yeah, I was actually wondering. It must be the second or third that she enters the series. It wasn't because the first one was 2002.
Yeah, it wasn't the first one.
Because she was way too young to be in the Bournes at 19 or 20.
Right.
And she was on Dexter for a hot minute. She was on
in the worst season of the show, but still she brings it up a bit. I was gonna bring that up as why I was like ready with that.
I still have never watched Dexter, which is kind of crazy because I know up my alley.
I feel like you would love it.
It's great until that last season is
well, the first 4 seasons are like TV perfection, and then 5 drops. And then it gets better until 8's very quick. 8 pulls like a Game of Thrones.
Is 8 the latest season? Because I know it just came back.
9. That's season 9.
Oh, that's 9. Yeah. Okay, got it. Okay, yeah, maybe I'll watch but I am not surprised that the later seasons dip. Because in my opinion, Showtime, much kind of like Fox, Showtime like can start a show and it's really good in those first couple seasons.
They don't know what to do.
And then it just nosedives. Like Homeland, even Shameless, like. Oh my God, and The Affair. I know we're on a tangent, but like The Affair, that show was so phenomenal. And it's like first 2, maybe 3 seasons. And oh my God, that final season was
you're describing Dexter at this point. I'm very passionate about this show. I would love for you to check it out. And if you ever do, I want to know about it.
All right.
Yeah, she is in season 5 of Dexter. Okay. And she for all intents and purposes, her character is good in the season. The season's weak, but Julia Stiles is always great.
Good. Yeah. She's. I don't think I've ever seen her do a bad job. So she is a great actress. And just going back to that poem. Yeah, I mean, it's good. I can believe. Yeah, it's funny. Like she's not meant to cry, and they probably going to do a couple takes, but it's like once you see that, you're like, okay, yeah, we got it. There's no need to even try anything else, right?
And
that's amazing.
It's a great moment too, because she's so emotional, and he doesn't say anything. It's the way he's looking at her, where he feels that he hurt her that much, and I don't know. It's a really solid moment for both of them. Like he doesn't even have to say anything, and he's also very good in that scene too.
Yeah.
I did want to ask you, Jackson, because this is your first time watching it, and what was it like seeing Heath Ledger in something like this is like this was his first big thing, you know, you really know him from like later stuff in his career, but what was that like?
Truth be told, I don't know that I've seen a Heath Ledger performance outside of The Dark Knight. As
Dark Knight,
bonkers as that is, there's so much.
Wow, have you
never seen Brokeback? Never saw
Brokeback. Wow,
it's been on my list forever, but just one of those ones I haven't got to. And I'm bullshitting you. I've seen him in The Patriot with Mel Gibson, and I love that movie, and he's great in that. Okay, that sounded wrong coming to my mouth, so I'm glad that I thought of something that I have seen him in. But still, criminal at how little of his career I have seen. He was great. My favorite part of this movie, I think him and Joseph Gordon-Levitt for me, like, were both fantastic, and especially not expecting to see Joseph Gordon-Levitt in it. I was like, that's great. But Heath really, and again, didn't really know the nature of his character. I had no expectations for what I thought he would deliver in this movie, and I loved every bit of it. For a while, it was funny. I had to Google where he was from because I'm detecting an accent. I didn't place it as Australian, but I was like, is this him? Is he an American doing a different region of American accent, or is he foreign trying to do an American? But then come to find out, they just write his natural Australian accent into the movie, which I thought was actually smart, and it doesn't happen nearly as much as I think it should, honestly.
Yeah.
And they kind of give it a one-off little explanation that he grew up in Australia before moving, and I was like, that's all you need to know, and that works perfectly.
It works, and it helps establish that he is different, because already he's kind of like the bad boy. There's all these fun rumors about him, right?
Yes.
But by just letting him have his authentic accent, it just adds this other, like, oh yeah, he's like this other guy that, like,
this different quality of him. It goes a long way. Also impressed with his song and dance routine, like that scene I mentioned earlier. Sometimes, like, and it's not like a quality of the movie cringe thing, it's a personal cringe thing. Like sometimes just live performances, or it's something in me, I'm like, I get uncomfortable. So to be able to watch it and see somebody perform that in front of all these people, I always find so impressive. So, you know, gotta give kudos to him for that. It is.
And do we know, is he really singing? Is that his real voice?
He did sing.
Nice.
He actually had a good singing voice. It works. I just love that close up at the end. I think as the camera's real close on him and he's finishing the song and he like smiles and it's like, wow, I get it.
Dreamy.
Like, dreamy.
And then,
like,
I love the zany, like kind of cartoony, them like chasing him at the end of the song too. Like, I guess like the school security or whatever. Trying
when
to
he like spanks the security guy. Like, that's such a funny little detail.
He definitely had like movie star quality that you could tell it then that he was going places.
He is his generation's Patrick Swayze. I'm just saying it right now.
Oh, I could see that. I could totally see that. And it's funny because like Gaius, like when we were young, like I knew he was good and charming, but it's funny, I didn't see it then just yet. It took me a little bit. Did you, when you saw that on the screen, were you like, oh, we have like a new movie star?
No, and I don't think because I guess I wasn't paying attention to it that much. And I do remember thinking like, because I knew at least some of the cast already just from TV. And I guess I didn't know Julia Stiles either, but it was one of those things where it was like, I saw him in the movie and didn't really think about it much afterwards until he started popping up in other stuff like A Knight's Tale and like all.
I was going to say, I feel like A Knight's Tale and The Patriot, those might have came out around the same time. And that's when he was starting.
Really
so it
blew up.
It took a little bit of time, but as an adult, oh my God, like if I was an adult back in '99, I'd be like, oh yeah, this guy
got a talent on our hands.
Yeah, like what a great star.
And he has he has really good comedic timing too. Like he's funny. He's really funny in this. Like when they're trying, like I think it's Michael and Cameron are now telling him why they want him to take out Kat, and it's about Bianca, and he's like, "What's up with this chick? She had beer flavored nipples." And
I know, what a line!
That was awesome.
And again, it's like kind of raunchy because when you think about that line, then you're it's just like, whoa, okay, cool. It's so funny, but it's just like, okay, we're going there.
Yeah. It's a great laugh at nobody else's expense too, which is just a nice thing to be able to see too.
And I love how Cameron is so protective. He's like, "Hey," he gets like all upset when he says it. But yeah, he had really good comedic timing, and and a lot of people wonder why he never did another movie like this afterwards. He loved making it. He didn't have anything against it. He just didn't want to get typecast playing teen, like the teen
tale as old
guy.
as time.
Yeah. But he was proud of it. So at least it was that.
He kind of had an interesting career once he started becoming a star, because kind of like going back to what you were saying, Jackson, like maybe you haven't seen a lot of his stuff, because when you think about it, like he didn't have a ton of like big, massive movies like that come to mind right away. Like some people you can just, just
rattle them
all off,
right?
So
right.
It's interesting because he kind of, tiptoed between like rom-com action and then of course some serious drama and then Dark Knight. Like he kind of was doing a little bit of everything. Some things were huge and some things, like he was in like Casanova, which like was a thing, but like not as big as other stuff, so it's just funny how he kind of tiptoed into different stuff.
A Knight's Tale is one I've always wanted to see that I know he's in, but
I haven't seen it in a while. I remember thinking it was all right.
Yeah, I agree, Gaius. I'm glad. I was going to be like, I loved it. It was like a big deal, but even as like in high school when it came out, I was a little disappointed or something. Like like sometimes even when you're young and like there isn't really much here. The coolest thing was it's like medieval, but they're all dancing to a David Bowie song, which I was like, oh, that's really cool.
Oh,
interesting. That's really all I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, he was interesting too, because he it's a classic example of like he didn't really want to be famous. Like I don't know if you ever watched that documentary they put together about him after he passed away.
I think
his family and stuff was involved in it, and they tell this story about a Knight's Tale poster, and it's just like the original one was just his image on it. And apparently when he saw it, he had like a panic attack and wanted them to change it because he just knew like he was like kind of wanted to be kind of anonymous still. Not famous. He just wanted to act, and he
didn't like that all the fame attached to it.
Yeah. He didn't like that this came along with it, like the notoriety and like all that. So I mean, a lot of actors his age are like, or some of them are at least. They're very like, I don't want to say self-important. I'm trying to figure another word for it. They take their craft very seriously, and they don't really. And he was one of those people too. He just didn't want to, really be famous.
Oh yeah,
but
I get it, because he sees that and he's like, oh wow, yeah, now so many more people are gonna know me. Come after me.
There are so many more expectations that come along with fame too. I wouldn't want to be that way. That's a big thing of like why I just don't think I would pursue a career as an actor beyond opportunity over here. I just think if I were to become successful, I could not deal with that side of things. No, that's very optimistic, but I kind of would feel like I would be in that boat as well. It's very relatable.
It's like all the. You're right.
Oh, sorry. I had a quick question. I'll
just
just bookmark it. I'm just curious if either of you have seen Monsters Ball and the size of his role in that movie. Because
my gosh,
it's a smaller part, but he.
I forgot. Sorry. That was like that in it. Oh my god,
that was worth it for the reaction.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, that's good. No, it's a smaller part, but very good. He's very good in it.
Oh my god, it's devastating. That movie's tough. That movie's
that was Halle Berry's Oscar, right?
Yeah, she won the Oscar for that. And she's good. Everyone's good, and I think even Diddy was.
He's having a day to day, by the way.
His houses got raided today. That's funny.
He's having a day, guys.
We're talking about you and Monsters Ball, Diddy. But no, Heath. Oh yeah, I forgot he's in Monsters Ball. I think I just forgot because that's not like
Mm-hmm.
when sometimes you're thinking of like movies you never need to see again. Like they're good, but they're just like disturbing. Or
they're heavy.
That one's rough, and what happens to his character is rough. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. So he did do. It's interesting. I mean, an actor's good when he can just like seamlessly go from like heavy stuff to like that to Knight's Tale. All different good stuff. And it's funny. I had forgotten that Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Heath were in this together, and not that they were in a Batman movie together, but how kind of fun to have them in this. And then Heath, of course, is the Joker, and then
He's in the Dark
Joseph
Knight, right? Joseph
Gordon-Levitt in Dark Knight Rises.
And
So
then
that's
David
kind of
Krumholtz also working with Nolan last year. With,
Oppenheimer. Yeah,
I knew I recognized him, but I had to actually go on his IMDb profile to make the connection that
he's great.
Yeah,
he is so
he was
great
fantastic in this movie. And I had never seen him act in anything else before.
Oh yeah,
that I remember.
He's really funny because I talked about it a couple months ago. It's funny. Only 5 years prior, he was so young looking. I guess because he was around 20. So I guess
he feels like an old soul in this dude.
Yeah,
even though he's like 20 years old. Like,
older, right?
He reminds me so much. So there are two characters that remind me of people I went to high school with, and one of them listens. The other one I haven't seen in a really long time. But this guy, Josh Lesser, we were in drama together. He is essentially Michael. Like that was like he was like older, way beyond his years, and like had that kind of sense of humor.
I know those people too, especially in theater. I had a couple people in like that did theater with me in high school, and I'm like, you do not act like a 17-year-old. I feel like you're someone's mom.
He was about 50, and then the other guy who actually does listen, this guy named James Magdaleno. He does listen. He looks like Andrew Keegan in this. We used to always call him Joey Donner in high school, and then he was kind of a douchebag in high school, and so like years later, like we see each other like every month or so because like trips from going out, and when I call him that now, he's always like, man, was I really like that bad? I was like high school, like whatever, you're kind of a dick, but like you're not a dick now. But like he kind of embraces it because he told me, he was like, dude, it was like years later, he was like, I was dating a girl and she's like, do you know who you look like? And he was like, please God, don't say this. And then she was like, you look like Joey Donner from 10 Things I Hate About You. And he's like, fuck. So like, so yeah,
so,
I mean, hey, that,
Andrew Keegan was a very handsome guy. So I mean, not a bad comparison. Right?
Funny how he's the model in the movie.
He has some really funny moments, man. He plays the part really well. When he's like at the party when he's showing her like what the underwear one and the poses, and then she's just like
to really like kind of reconsider like her liking for him. Yeah, that's great. And I love it's either before or after that with the headshot, and it's the same headshot, just a different color shirt, right? And he's like, "Which one?" And she's like, "The white. You look pensive." And he goes, "Oh, damn! I was going for thoughtful."
That was hilarious.
And her face is great too. Jax, I did want to ask you because sometimes characters like this you don't really like enjoy. Like I remember when we watched The Faculty and Delilah, the stuck-up girl. You were like, didn't really love her.
Yes.
But what did you think of Bianca? In this, because she starts off pretty not too kind of bratty and unlikable.
Yeah,
I know she changes
bratty
throughout the movie.
Yet I still was rooting for her and Cameron. I wanted Cameron to get her because that's what he wanted, even though it probably wasn't the best choice for him at the time. Just I guess until she kind of changes her mind after the Joey thing. Like she's kind of like feeling out her options while Cameron is kind of dead set on her. And so part of that was a little bit relatable. And I was like, come on, Cam, like you can do better than that. But I did warm to her character. I never disliked her. If anything, I liked her a little bit more than Kat at times. But like overall, I like the sister characters. I liked both what each character brought to the dynamic of like their sisterhood. But no, I liked her. I see a lot of her and other people that I know and grew up with. So I kind of felt like relatable and like just like kind of safe. It just felt like a very true lived in character, and I guess props to the actress that plays her. See, I wasn't familiar with her before.
Larissa Oleynik.
Yes.
She was big. She was big for us that watched The Secret World of Alex Mack. It was a nice
one.
Was this her first acting role? Did I read that, or am I mixing her up?
No, she was on TV. Okay. Like, this probably might have been the first. No, she was in the Babysitters Club before this, I think.
Oh my God, the Babysitters Club. Love that movie. Yeah. I forgot she was in that.
I got to put a timeout and rewind a little bit here because Gaius, you let me say my part. And I cut you off. I just wanted to see if you had got that point. Yeah. What was that?
Oh no. It was from earlier. It was from earlier because I was thinking about when we were talking about Heath Ledger with the marketing for A Knight's Tale and stuff. And I was like, well, he's on the poster for 10 Things, but he shares it. There's one poster that he shares with Julia Stiles, and they're together.
She's in A Knight's Tale too, or for this?
No, just on the poster for this movie. And then the other posters they use later is just a group shot, so he's not really the focus of the marketing. And then actually some of the other marketing for this, it was just the title on a billboard with like the 10 and Things I Hate About You, and that was it.
Interesting.
Like that's how they kind of promoted it and made it different from the other teen movies I guess that were coming out, which was all like back in that day it was all the group shot on those posters.
I've never been a fan of that poster, and same with the floating heads. I don't
that's funny. I do love a group shot.
A group shot.
Although I do think
it can work,
nowadays,
but I think it's overused. Is what my
I
problem.
do think nowadays posters are doing too many group like floating heads things. I hear you
creativity
there,
is gone
Jackson.
in modern
I
posters.
feel like we're doing it with every genre, and
yes,
some movies it's okay to show everyone, but some I'm like, okay, really, that guy's on the poster, like. What happened? Like it's weird. I think it's just total marketing, just to show as many faces to see who you might know. But I do, going back to the group shot for this, because it's funny. I feel like when it was out, that group shot, it's mostly just them. I think just standing, right?
Yeah, and it has the 10 things I hate about you arrow pointing down at Patrick.
I feel like that. I feel like that was everywhere, But then in more recent years, as like the decades went on, they then just really focused on Heath and Julia, like the shot that But I do love the group shot. I just thought it was so fun to see.
That is the one on the Blu-ray. Yeah.
Oh, see, yeah. I feel like in more recent years, that's like the main image, which is a great shot.
And I think the DVD I have is the group shot. The one they came out with first was the group photo of them.
Yeah, I do love that one.
Just looking at the poster. Oh, sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
Oh no, go for it.
Just looking at the poster now, that the one that you just described, Gaius, it's funny. There's like two like Shakespearean like references to it, which is funny. Like at the very bottom it says Romeo, oh Romeo, get out of my face. Kind of cover. And then the very top, which I had never seen the poster before, but it goes, how do I loathe thee? ? Let me count the ways.
Yeah, I remember that.
Very on the nose that it's like, or I guess like not hiding that it's approaching or adapting Shakespeare, which I think is funny.
Very catchy title too. I guess one of the writers, she said that she went through her old journals or diaries. It was about like all these things she hated about Anthony or something like that, and that's how they got like her boyfriend. Yeah, and that's how they got the title for it. And they thought that Disney was going to make them change it because they were like that. They thought it'd be too like. She said back then it felt edgy. No, probably not today, but she thought they would make them like change it to something that was more like relatable or accessible.
Back then that title was like kind of like, like, 10 things I hate about you. Like, whoa, that's now we're just used to all kinds of
that's nothing. That's child's play now.
Oh yeah, that's nothing. But back then,
anybody
that was pretty bold for a PG whatever movie,
Has anybody bothered counting how many the number of things that she lists in her poem about the things she hates about Patrick? Because it felt like more than 10.
Are there 10? I tried to count.
It's got to be more. I didn't count, but I was like, that sounds like more than 10.
I thought there were 10.
Funny.
Wouldn't that be right? Wouldn't that be awful? And they were like 13.
I do think it's funny. Now I'm looking at the group poster. I do think it's funny that the one girl made it on the poster.
The one Mandela
left.
Mandela.
Yeah,
the one
on
that's
the
barely
left.
in the movie.
who Michael like falls for. I mean, that's great, but like and no shade to the actress whatsoever, but like I didn't really care about her. I didn't really
if they left her out, she would be the only one of the young cast they left out, I think.
That's true. Okay, yeah. Yeah, because when I saw her, when she like popped up, because when he gets her like a medieval dress and all that, I actually was, when I was rewatching, I was actually thinking like, okay, what number was she on the call sheet? This girl had to be like number 10
a lot of her
12.
scenes were cut too, and like I think some of them were raunchy because a lot of them were about like Shakespeare and her wanting to like have sex with Shakespeare. And there's one line that Julia Stiles says like, she's like, what do you think he would say if we were in bed together? And she tells her like, get out of my bed because my gay lover's here. Like that's one of the like dialogue exchanges that they have. So like I'm thinking a lot of that just stuff got cut because it was too raunchy, but. Yeah, she really doesn't have a lot to do until they need to pair her with Michael, just because he's got no one else to be paired with.
Yeah, because I guess everyone's kind of paired off. Because then even Gabrielle Union's character totally
it's with Joey, the bitch.
She like totally leaves Bianca behind. She's like, he was gonna nail you tonight anyway. So whatever. You're like, she like kind of like turns into Mean Girl, and she's like, yeah, I'll take your sloppy seconds. I'm off with Joey. So, yeah,
shamelessly.
She played a similar role in She's All That. She was kind of
right. But it's funny. I feel like in She's All That, she's slightly smarter and a little cooler. In this one, she I love the line. Can you ever just be whelmed? Like that to me is so iconic of this era. Like I know you can be overwhelmed.
She says, "I think you can in Europe." Yeah,
I think you can in Europe. Right? It's so that's great. Like that's classic. Like. We're getting into like Clueless territory there. But one other thing I wanted to quickly say about Bianca, about Larissa, and how she is a brat. She is kind of a mean girl, but we never like hate her. And I think that's because of the casting of her. I think because they didn't go for like a super beautiful, like she's super cute, but she's not like Baba Boom. She's not like sexy. If anything, her prom dress is
horrendous,
kind of like shockingly awful. Like
for someone that popular, yeah. Like,
I guess
for
it's
someone
like
that
kind
popular,
of
yeah.
Right.
Thank you for mentioning that, Mark. I had that on my chest.
Because I had forgotten because Julia looks great. She's like very like form fitting, but like her sister who's supposed to be the popular one. I thought it was maybe just a nod to like the 80s because it looks kind of 80s and dated and
much does
maybe, but no, I think it's the casting of Larissa because she is someone that like just has this vibe, this face that like you would fall for. She's nice and she just seems like girl next door. So yeah, props to casting for this because
it was hard for her to play, I guess, because she said she auditioned for Kat. Because I guess in real life she was more like, she said that she was into like Northern California, like indie rock, like she was more that girl. And they're like, no, but you look the part of Bianca. And it was hard for her to kind of get into it, but she had fun, I guess. She said playing it, but it was definitely not her personality. And that could be why that part works so well, though. I think she probably brought a little bit more humanity to it than a lot of other people would have. I do think it's interesting the dialogue exchanges that they have about their mom, like in the bathroom, which seems like very like, because I know why it's there. It's supposed to, there's this tension because the mom's not there, and like it's created this division too with like between the sisters, and now this dad's raising these two girls on his own, but like it does just kind of come out of nowhere, it seems, and it doesn't really go much.
It doesn't get explored really deeply. No, I agree.
Yeah. And I had forgotten. So mom didn't die. She just like divorced dad and left. Is that what happened?
That's the impression that I got.
Yes, I got.
Yeah, like that's
but there is
like
Bianca does have a line though where she goes, "It's not like mom's coming back for them," meaning the pearls that she's wearing, which kind of insinuates death. But I think that's the only thing that I picked up in there that I was like, maybe she is. But I feel like if that was the case, it would be addressed a little bit more. But it's pretty ambiguous.
Yeah, since
I'm sure there's an answer.
Our lead women are sisters, and we spend a lot of time, of course, with them and with dad. And so, for mom to not have died, but to have like left the family, like
strange.
I think we need to like discuss that more, like So, and we don't really. So that is strange. I wonder if there's a deleted scene of them talking about her. Maybe it just got too serious or too heavy, but. Yeah, you don't see that too often. Like, again, going back to She's All That, her mom died, right? And again, another comparison there. But yeah, I just feel like when a mom leaves a family, I don't know, I immediately think of Scream 2 and Laurie Metcalf and like, oh, she left the family when dad was cheating and now she's back, for revenge. So it's just like, whoa, that's dark. Like, let's unpack that. So maybe they just thought it's just too much to unpack.
For their lighthearted teen comedy.
I think what's handled a bit better is the conversation between them about Joey and why Kat doesn't like him. I think that was handled a lot better. And also the anger at, like, I think Bianca's justifying, like, you didn't let me kind of make, you're making these decisions for me. And it's interesting too, because like Bianca gets mad at her for that. And that's the same thing that Kat gets mad at her dad for. Like, why can't I make my own decisions? You're kind of doing this for me. So it was that kind of interesting kind of dynamic between the characters. And I thought that was handled well.
Another line that at least hit me, I don't know if this has ever been said to you guys, but when they go to the big party, which, oh, by the way, I wanted to say, since we've talked about Can't Hardly Wait in the past, isn't it so funny the similarities of this big party, the
big massive party,
the nerdy guy that lives in the house, and how like everyone's and
he's like that must be Nigel with the brie.
Totally, yeah. Of the girl in Can't Hardly Wait who's like so upset that things are breaking, right? Very similar. But anyway, so at the big party, the sisters are there, but they don't hang out. They're like doing their own thing. And then so when when Kat goes up to Bianca, I think Bianca says something like, "Why are you addressing me in public?" or something like that.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say, I don't know if you ever have had like a friend or anyone say that to you, but years and years ago, I mean, I'm over it now, but a good friend who's my neighbor, a good friend, we would write screenplays together. We would make movies together.
What?
One day out of the blue.
Wow, that's fucked up.
It was, I think maybe, it was in 5th grade, a little bit before this. it was in 5th grade because now we were in middle school. And the way my town was, we had 3 different elementary schools. So then everyone came together in middle school. So there were like some people you didn't know. And she happened to somehow become popular. And I didn't care about that shit. I'm like, yeah, you're my friend. Okay, so this Friday, let's like watch TGIF and then let's like continue writing our Scream ripoff. And she goes, you can't talk to me here. And I was like, what? So seeing this, and seeing like, say that to the other, I was like,
interaction. Yeah,
I was like, oh my god, I've been told that before.
Like triggered.
Yeah, it was a little triggering, but I'm over it. But anyway, that's just so stupid when people like say shit like that.
Yeah,
hopefully,
100%.
I mean, I'm sure it still happens today, but hopefully, kids are
nicer to each other.
Yeah, you know.
Do they even interact these days? Like,
oh yeah, who knows?
I know, right?
Julia Stiles is good at playing drunk. There were some moments when she was playing drunk that actually cracked me up when they're sitting on the swings and she's like, well, you know what they say. He's like, what do they say? And then she like passed out on the swing and he's like, whoa, wait. Like, yeah. She was
stay with
like,
me.
Because sometimes people can't convincingly play it. Like it's like, oh, you're overdoing it.
Right.
And she did that pretty well, I thought.
Especially playing drunk and being funny. Like it can get
funny,
not funny or like too over the top, but no, I thought that was pretty smooth as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And going back to the table dance, I do remember at the time, a lot of my black friends who saw that movie, that was the one thing that they would comment about because they were like, all right, Julia Stiles, she can get it. She's got some rhythm. Good for her. Yeah. And I was like, that was the one scene they would point it out because it's a stereotype that white people don't have rhythm, and then when they do, it's like, whoa,
yeah,
like, good for you guys.
Game.
Speaking of like white people, black people, what do you guys think of another line that maybe hasn't aged well? I mean, it's funny, but it's a little slightly cringe. Is early on when David Krumholtz is showing Joseph Gordon-Levitt around, like typical teen movies, showing the different groups. Yeah. What does he say? He's like, these are like the white Rastas. They think they're black.
Think they're black.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Like, I guess not too offensive, but I was just like, oh, okay, that's a choice. All right.
Yeah.
Think they're black. Okay.
It felt out of place to me, like it was like a forced part of that. Maybe it was funny in the context of the late 90s. I don't know. It didn't resonate with me at all. I was like, that's interesting. I don't know I haven't seen any examples of anybody like trying.
It was a lot. It was definitely around more in the late 90s where there was that whole stereotype, not necessarily like the Rastafari or anything, but there was definitely like the whole like wigga thing that was big in the late 90s where white guys really would dress in like
like the J-Rocks of the world.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It was a thing, but yeah, it is funny. We're watching it now, being like, oh,
yeah. I think maybe it's just the line they think they're black. Maybe I don't know, something about that. I was like, I think you can just leave it at like white Rastas and we can see and like we can understand. But it is funny to have those guys in the classroom with the black teacher and how he's like, I don't want to hear anything from you guys. Like,
that's right.
Yeah.
I also think it's funny when there's teachers in movies like this that don't act like teachers. Like when he tells Joey like about him like bitch slapping him, basically. He's like, unless it's about you being bitch slapped, I don't want to hear a thing about it. Like, I mean, that's when you're in fantasy high school because that just wouldn't fly.
Oh, totally. And also speaking of fantasy high school, one scene that is also so weird when you really like think about it is how she flashes the teacher.
Oh yeah, I was gonna mention that. Yeah, okay, I was gonna mention that.
I'm like, he just looks the whole time. There's staring the whole time.
So right. And there's nothing that there's no. She doesn't get into trouble for that. He doesn't get into trouble for that. Like
she gets applause from all the students.
Yes. Like in a way, it's kind of like, yeah, girl, like do what you want, but also it's like, is there another way to distract the teacher? I don't know. Like there's something about that scene that I was like,
very out of place, very strange.
I mean, it doesn't fly now. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that. I was going to mention it. It's weird, but I guess
it's weird.
Then, like we were laughing at it back then. Like it was like, oh, that's kind of funny. But now it's like, like
it's just funny that no one ever brings it up. Like no one ever says like Heath doesn't say like, oh, I'm surprised you don't want to flash that guy or something, just to kind of like.
It's literally not addressed.
Yeah, which I think just makes it weirder. Yeah.
I don't think we thought about that as like it's weird as teenagers being like, oh, it's so weird that she's a student and she would do that, and like you don't think about the implications of when you're young, like how that is.
Weird,
like kind of wrong scene.
Yeah.
But it really doesn't
And
age
you know,
well.
that would have been great to actually like, okay, sure, keep that in, but then she has to go see Alice and Janney, and it's like, and that would be so perfect to keep it. Maybe they shot it, they took it out, I don't know, but how perfect to go back to Alice and Janney, and
True.
she's getting further in her smutty novel, and then she's like,
Yeah.
Pat,
She
I'm
uses
hearing her
that as
flashing,
material.
right? And then
Yeah.
she could use that. She's like, oh, she flashed, right? That would have made it, that would have been full circle. So it is weird we didn't get one more moment with Allison. Yeah.
You're too right, because
doing
we literally never see her after like how
It,
far
yeah,
in the movie. She has a couple scenes, and then
yeah.
Yeah.
And
the
then
credits though
after,
show a couple deleted scenes, and she's in a couple of them, which is kind of
oh,
funny.
I stopped at the, so
Yeah.
okay, I should
It-
rewatch the credits.
the
Nice.
last one that they have her in with the is really funny because like the two girls weren't expecting her, and the guy and the
Oh.
director, that's who she's like
Is
hugged
it
up on.
the director? Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it wasn't. They weren't expecting them to be there, and they just like die. Like it's pretty funny.
Oh, that's
They kind
funny.
of love her stuff. Yeah, it's she has some funny scenes. There was one scene that they cut where the sisters, I guess they have gotten to a fight, and she's trying to tell them how to like settle the fight, and she's like, because I'm more mature. And when she talks about how mature she is, like she goes like mature like this. She's like, I know what I'm talking about. And she said the best way for you guys to like hash this out is just like beat each other's asses. Like she's like encourages them to fight. And like
Okay.
yeah, maybe they just thought it would go too far, I guess.
Yeah.
Is there a
Add that in there.
director's cut of this movie anywhere?
No, I mean the deleted scenes are on the Blu-ray, but yeah, no,
Okay.
just the actual. Yeah,
I
they
think
cut
it
a
would
lot.
benefit. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny also comparing this, especially her character, to I think of when we talked about Halloween H2O last year, how LL Cool J, the security guard, isn't he also writing like a romance novel?
Yeah,
He's on the
romance
phone,
novel. Yeah,
right?
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
I
funny how
couldn't
that
remember
was like,
who it was in H2O
yes,
that was doing that, and I thought
right?
of that earlier.
You're like,
Yeah.
I'm getting like deja vu here. Yeah, like a fun side character who has a day job but is like secretly, yeah. It's just
I
funny
gotta
how that was
admit, it didn't
a
work for me
recurring
in
theme.
H2O, but it does here.
Yeah, yeah,
love it.
exactly. Yeah.
Jackson, you mentioned earlier when you were talking about like what you thought of the movie. You said there was some stuff like some, I guess, like of the era '90s stuff that you didn't enjoy. Like what was some of that?
Some 90s cheese for sure that doesn't always resonate with me. I'm trying to think. There was definitely some things I should have wrote down that I did not. I guess the wardrobe. I mean, that's not a fault of the movie. That's a sign of the times. But the wardrobe to me was very, very off-putting in a lot of places. The problem
Bianca doesn't wear anything cute. Actually, I was like, for someone who's as popular as she is,
I thought her dress in the very first scene she's in was like the cutest outfit she has for sure. You're right though. Like nothing else is very flattering.
Well, it's funny that Gabrielle Union definitely looks better in her outfits than Bianca does.
Yeah.
It's weird how the best friend looks better than the kind of like lead popular girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else was
And did
there?
you guys? I guess while you're
the-
thinking that,
Yep.
what you read something that else you caught on to?
The
That you were
we
thinking
already
about?
addressed it, but the live performances in the movie in general, there's a little bit too much, and it I actually can't really fault the movie. It's actually kind of impressive. I think that they incorporated the rock scene, which I guess is huge in Seattle, into the movie, which I thought was actually makes sense for the setting of the movie. But like, I thought there was a lot of like live performances for me that like too many for me. Like there's at the prom, and then there's like, I guess a couple make sense. When they're at the bar and like he's trying to initially ask out Kat. It makes sense that like he does it at a concert where her favorite band is playing.
Yeah.
And I guess I won't count Heath's actual performance to her at the stadium because that also kind of makes sense. But that felt like a sign of the times where like there's just always for some reason a band playing at any sort of event.
Right. And it's funny because I feel like Jawbreaker had a band playing at prom, the Donnas. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Oh, well, She's All That had Usher DJ.
They had Usher DJing, yeah.
It's like a time that like the school dances like had to have like an act. It wasn't just like just music playing. It's like someone's either the DJ or someone's on the mic. Yeah, it's funny.
Well, no one I knew had bands at their prom. Like I didn't have a band. We had not even. We had DJs, and that was it. It's always been a movie thing. I was like, I don't know anyone that had a band at their.
You know what, like Gabe? I wonder, and this just came to me. I haven't had much time to think about it, but I wonder if that element was kind of popular in these teen movies to have some sort of live act on stage. I wonder if it's because like by, this was like season 3 of Buffy, and Buffy at the Bronze, there were often
the local
acts.
nightclub and all,
at the nightclub, and some of them were like real. I feel like many of them were real bands or real singers that like, okay, in this episode, like Biff Naked or whoever all these people, right? So like, I wonder if maybe because that was like a popular thing, maybe they incorporated that into some movies. I don't know. Something to think about.
Perhaps.
Because I don't know anyone in my world at all that had a band at their prom or any of their dances.
Yeah.
No.
It's definitely a high school movie thing, it feels like.
To sum it up, though, it's like quirky 90s dialogues, a lot of which I didn't write down the examples. There'd just be a couple here that I'd cringe and be like, oh, that's so 90s, it hurts. And sometimes that works to a movie's advantage. There's lots of times where I think it's charming, but like there was a couple moments in this, like I expected. I gave it some leeway for sure. It's not like it ruined the movie for me at all, but sometimes it's just, I'm like, I'm not of this time, and it shows. But overall, I like it.
How many Shakespeare references did any of you guys catch while watching it?
Well, I'll tell you right now.
Didn't know. Wasn't looking for them.
Well, I don't think I said this. I was going to say, Jackson, to say about the Shakespeare stuff that when it was marketed, right, guys? Like I feel like when we saw the trailer, like we knew it was told to us that like this is a modern update of Taming of the Shrew.
Yeah, it made it a point to let you know.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah. So yeah, like it's interesting because unless you're looking at a poster and there's like a tagline that like makes you think that, like, it's not super duper obvious, but like I remember in the trailers, like it was like, I feel like in the trailers they constantly were calling her like the shrew. So that was like more apparent.
I feel like the marketing was like, hey, they're probably reading this in high school, they'll know what this is. Like it felt like
fair enough. We read Macbeth and Hamlet in high school, which were awesome Shakespeare plays to read, but I had never come close to the Taming of a Shrew. I did notice though, I believe it's Kat, it's at least a female character at one point, and I think she's reading several books throughout the runtime, but she is holding a Shakespeare play at one point. I was going to ask if either of you guys picked up on what it was. I tried to look and couldn't tell.
No, I can tell either. No,
I'm going to Google it.
But I thought it was Shakespeare. Yeah,
she does have a Shakespeare book at one point.
I was going to say, I don't think I caught like, too many references on this rewatch, but I right away that they go to, I think their high school's name is Padua, which that's like the town in the Shakespeare.
Yes.
Yes.
And then
so I remember
Patrick
that
Verona, like the last name Verona, it's from like Romeo and Juliet.
Exactly.
The last name Stratford, they said, is William Shakespeare's hometown as well.
Oh, yeah.
There's like all these
Stratford upon Avon, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like so this like kind of, I know there are other movies before this that try to do like modern spins on Shakespeare. It felt even bigger after this. Actually, one of the co-writers on this, she actually also wrote She's the Man, which is an update of like Shakespeare's 12th Night. And then of course, you see it, you even seen it now recently. Anyone But You is like a modern update of Much Ado About Nothing, which I didn't realize until it is. Once you realize it is, you're like, oh, I guess it's like a little bit, kind of
cool.
It's in there.
I haven't seen it yet, but okay, that's cool. I like that. Yeah.
And then after this, they also did Get Over It. That came out in 2001. That was like a play on like a Midsummer's Night's Dream, and like
I did. Oh, you're right. That was I saw that, but it wasn't as good as some of the other ones.
No, like that's what I was thinking. I was like, after this, Jackson and I probably only have like American Pie from this time period.
Oh yeah.
It feels like after American Pie, like once you hit the 2000 mark, these movies aren't nearly as good anymore. I don't even remember what came out in like 2000.
Yeah,
unless you're talking about like American Pie 2 and like all that stuff, but like
sequels and whatnot.
Luckily we got like some raunchy, like maybe more college movies in the wake of American Pie. Like I did love Road Trip, which I think was 2000.
I love that too. Actually, like that movie too.
Yeah, we kind of took a little bit of a break from memorable high school movies for a bit. Yeah, I'd have to look it up too. We got like random stuff like The New Guy and
Whatever It Takes and like some like
Whatever It Takes. Oh my god,
random ones. Like it really peters off like after
it
American
sort of just became like a grab bag of all sorts of stuff. Yeah, you're right.
And you would think it would have been like I guess with the success of American Pie, I was thinking like it would have kept going, but I think because American Pie was the really R-rated raunchy comedy, they were like, hey, we're not going to make these like teen movies anymore. We're going to make these R-rated raunchy, almost like college set.
And how funny, yeah,
Yeah,
because not only with American Pie, but then a few months later, American Beauty, which isn't only in high school, but you have Thora
yeah.
Birch, Mina Suvari, Wes Bentley, like you have high school students as a major part of that. So yeah, you get two kind of game changers that are R-rated that talk about teen life. So yeah, those kinds of they both kind of maybe twisted it up a bit for movies that came after, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And then just when the movie came out, it has a 71% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Of the 1999 teen movies, it is on Rotten Tomatoes the highest rated one.
Wow.
From critics,
Really?
it has a bigger score than Cruel Intentions, She's All That, Varsity Blues, and American Pie. I thought American Pie had a bigger score. It's 64%, and I thought it was better received than that.
Interesting. It's funny because like this movie's so good, but I think I still like other teen movies from 1999 more. You know, like this is definitely one of the better ones. But like, I think I would prefer Never Been Kissed over this one still. You know, or like definitely, I love Cruel Intentions more than this one. You know,
I agree.
They're different.
I was trying to think about that because we just covered it and I rewatched it and he watched it for the first time and I was like, hey, which one do I enjoy?
Oh my God.
Which one do I watch? Which one do I like more?
Yeah.
And I guess they're too different for me to really pick one.
I know
they're
so
apples
different.
to oranges. Yeah.
And I will say I think of the comedic ones, I think this is the better ones of the teen comedies. Like comparing it to like Can't Hardly Wait or She's All That. And I think I actually think of the teen comedies, for me, it might be second to Clueless as far as like how smart it is and and the cast and all that. Like it really came together in a really good way with like the writing and then the group of people that got to be in it. I think that helped a lot.
Definitely.
But Cruel Intentions, I think Cruel Intentions has more of an entertainment factor for various reasons.
Right. Agreed. And it's actually pretty perfect that you guys talked about Cruel Intentions and Heathers in this one, because maybe not Heathers, but at least Cruel Intentions and 10 Things are modern updates, and then Heathers is just such a classic. So you have a whole great like teen. You're doing Teen March, which I love. But what makes Cruel Intentions like a little different, even though they are technically in high school, first of all, they're never actually really in school until like the very, very end. And still they're not in school. They're at like the
funeral thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like summer, and also they dress and act like they're adults, you know? So
yeah, I think I like that more about it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it works so perfectly, but yeah, you're not, and the cast is actually very small. It almost feels kind of like a play. You're not seeing big groups of people really. So that's why it kind of feels a little different, but at least, you know, stories about teens, I still would like I rewatched Cruel Intentions like 50 times. 10 Things I've watched like 5 times or 7 times. You know what I mean? A little less, but it's still really good. Yeah, that's very.
I remember we had Burke on the Cruel Intentions episode. He's like, "When's the last time you watched it?" And I was like, "Oh, like for its last anniversary for Cruel Intentions." He's like, "Oh, that seems like when you like watch a lot." I was like, "I used to like back in the day, but it had been a while since I watched it." But yeah, definitely, I've seen Cruel Intentions more than this.
Yeah.
But
no, this is definitely a really, everything came together very well for this movie. It's pretty special for sure.
Yeah. All right. I think this is the point where we have to give some scores and final thoughts.
Oh, yeah,
definitely. Mark, as our guest, would you like to cap us off?
Oh gosh. Okay. So can you remind me what I'm so bad with scoring things.
Well, do whatever you can do it. Rating,
so we've been doing like the Letterboxd thing, but however you want to do it, you can do the.
Okay. Yeah. So like if it's Letterboxd, it's like out of 5 stars, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
5. Okay. I would give this. I mean, it's so good. I would give it a solid 4 out of 5 stars for me. I think. I think it's really great. Very, very enjoyable. Everyone's so cute, and like we said, there's good, kind of complicated. I love like, you know, little like deceitful, like, okay, like I'm whispering with you now, and now we're actually talking to you. You know, like all that's really fun. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's just like I was saying, it's not like one of my tippy top like, oh my god, let me quote this and watch it like once a year kind of things. Right? But yeah, I'd say 4 out of 5 for me.
Fantastic, great score. Gaius,
how about you? Yeah, you want to go?
Yeah, you want me to go next? Right? Oh, me?
Well, I think you gave it away. You're matching American.
Yeah, I'm matching you with 4 out of 5. Yeah, I found it very enjoyable, and it's just fun. And I think it's really smart and probably one of the better ones to come out during that time. I think it stands out amongst the pack a great deal. I think that's why, like my little brother, he's 26. He found this movie on his own without me showing it to him with his friends, and they actually really liked. He found this one and Carrie Hardly Wait on his own. So, so I think that it seems pretty generational as far as like people discovering
this is
and
very
finding it,
popular even amongst my friends and age group too.
And maybe I wonder if because there was a TV show, 10 Things I Hate About You. I never watched it.
It was on ABC Family.
I never know.
Always a TV show on ABC. It was on ABC Family. Yeah, and I think it was
for probably a few years. So I wonder if that maybe helped. Just keep its legacy going for a bit.
Interesting. I'm just wondering.
Because I was looking online because I wrote one for MovieWeb, but I mean this is when we were talking about Varsity Blues, I was like I didn't see a lot of people writing about that for its anniversary, but this is one that it feels like every big one, like it's 10, 15, 20, and now 25. There are a lot of people writing pieces about how this movie is still an important part of like the time, and even important part of like in today's culture as far as like teen movies and like, movies aimed at the youth culture and stuff. So
it definitely this is one of those that like it just kind of like instantly was part of pop culture. Like it instantly entered the zeitgeist for whatever reason, because some like Varsity Blues, which was big, like what we talked about, but they don't end up sticking in memory like this one does for whatever reason.
Right. All right. What about you, Jackson? What's your?
All right. We're at that moment. Okay. Keeping in mind.
I'm gonna upset some late 90s babies, man.
Exactly. No, I don't think so. Like, I think it's a positive Jackson score. It's coming in a little bit lower, but just bearing in mind, like this genre is very much not like my go-to. But that being said, I still really enjoyed it. So for that, it's a 3 out of 5 for myself, and that's a good in my books.
That's a good Jackson score.
I also don't have the nostalgia. This is my first watch.
No, yeah. I just love that most times I'm on your show lately, it's like Gaius and I are like, oh my god, and then Jackson's like, this movie's not that
good. You're right. That has definitely happened while you've been on our
he liked what The Faculty was probably the most positive I think reaction he's had to these movies that we like. Yeah, you like, and like
I did like that movie.
I actually think you enjoyed Can't Hardly Wait when we talked about it.
Yeah, I did. Yes, I did. Wild Things was one I really liked.
Wild Things,
Wild Things was great.
One of the best. Oh my god.
Yeah, Cruel Intentions, a recent one that I really, really liked.
Yeah.
Was
that your first watch of Cruel Intentions?
Yes, it was.
Wow.
Oh boy,
that movie,
I did not know what I was getting into with that one.
That movie was a sexual awakening.
Sarah
for
Michelle Gellar was nuts.
Oh my god, I know. Yeah, everyone was so perfect. Yeah. Are you guys?
Sexual awakening. That's funny because like when we did the show, there were so many comments I was reading that everyone was like, "Oh,
that was brought up many times."
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. From the cleavage to Ryan's butt to naked blonde Joshua Jackson in bed. I mean, there's something for everyone.
Yes,
I love it. But yeah, and on not to be a downer, but it's like we had this movie, and then we had Never Been Kissed a couple weeks later. And then Columbine, I think, happened.
Oh boy!
Yeah,
April.
April 20th. I think it's the.
Yeah, it'll be the 25th. Yeah. So then that
changed
then we,
everything.
We of course still had like Election and American Pie, but like anything serious like what you were saying with and I mean
a lot of like episodes of a few episodes of Buffy got delayed because of that. There was a lot of stuff that changed. I know the way they wrote Scream 3 changed because of that too. It changed a lot because everyone was trying to figure out like who do you blame, like, and they were like, oh, let's blame the movies and TV. That was like an easy and the music and the Marilyn Manson and all that. So there's a lot of video games.
Yeah. Basically like target. A lot of entertainment geared towards teens. Yeah, then was totally inspected.
Anything but gun control.
Right.
They should for another day.
And before we take off on this, I wanted to ask, do you think that this movie, of course we were never going to see or anything like that, but do you think that they would ever remake it as far as like
I love that you're asking this question. I'm sure it'll get remade because I mean it's Shakespeare, so like Cruel Intentions has had different iterations.
And they're doing a Amazon TV show on that soon, like
right. So so I'm sure we'll get another version of this, and when we do, it would be nice to maybe see like a queer couple because everyone's so straight in this movie, but as was the late 90s. But I actually think this could be a great like musical, whether it's a stage musical or a movie musical, but I think this could really live on the stage, with some fun peppy like punky music, and you got a great like characters, because it already was on stage with Shakespeare, but I feel like that could be a fun lively like musical.
That seems like they're doing with a lot of these. Talk about with Jawbreaker. I mean, it happened with Mean Girls.
Right.
Like that seems to be like that. There was a Heathers one too. Like there seems to be a direction for a lot of.
There was a Clueless musical that.
Cruel Intentions. There was another that.
Oh yeah, I love that musical. Is so much fun. I've seen that twice. It's so good. But I mean, unlike Cruel Intentions, because the Cruel Intentions musical, they sing songs from that soundtrack, which is so memorable, and then also songs of the time. The soundtrack for this movie is so fun, but I don't know if there are too many like memorable songs that like they would need to. I feel like it would be more songs just of that era, or just
like Hypnotized by Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah.
Dude, that party scene has banger after banger. I didn't realize it until
there's some good tracks.
There's some good songs in that. But yeah, Jackson, do you think the musical route is probably?
If it were to be remade, I think that would be a good angle to go. I would have reservations about any high school set movie being remade for the smartphone era, the smartphone generation. I just think like that's slippery slope. I don't know how. I don't know if I've seen a high school set movie like in this generation yet. That like I don't know. I would have reservations about it. But you're right. It's Shakespeare material. I'm sure sooner or later we'll get another adaptation of The Taming of the Shrew. I don't know that it would have the longevity or like the staying power that 10 Things I Hate About You would have, but that remains to be seen. I like what you're onto though, Mark, about it being. I think there'd be some potential as a musical for sure, though.
Especially like we've been saying, like there's live bands and there's music plays like a big part in the movie, so I feel like that wouldn't be a hard translation to the stage or something. That could be fun.
Well, I mean, if it seems like everything is getting an adaptation. I just found out today that they're making a sequel to John Tucker Must Die, and that was the most random.
Saw that today too.
Random like sequel ever, dude.
That's out of the blue. Like I think you even wrote like this was not on my bingo card, and that's pretty random. But I did like that movie. I haven't seen that in many years, but I remember
it is based on Shakespeare too. The Merry Wives of Windsor. Apparently,
that's right.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
See what I mean, man? He is the bard. Reason.
But I was scrolling through like X and this one guy's comment because there's all these like people who were like, oh my god, we need this, wow, yeah. And then this one guy in the middle was like, who is this even for?
No, for real, that's my initial thought. Like, I've never seen John Tucker Must Die, but I've
so it came out in 2006, so like
okay, I'm familiar with the title of it though, but I'm like, who the hell is saying let's get a sequel to this?
I would check it out if I were you. It's pretty
I will,
fun.
no doubt. Yeah.
But I don't know who was in the office. They're like, we need a sequel to that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And like how the script has already been written. So I'm curious, like, what's gonna happen now? They're all adults.
Yeah. And then does he have a kid that's a player? Like, I don't know. Like,
right. Or I don't know. It's interesting, but
there's some beautiful ladies in it though. I mean, like of that time, like that's random too. Yeah, man, Jackson, we talked about this a lot during that period. They're like, we need a black girl. Hopefully, she's an R&B singer.
Yes, we have.
I feel like this is admit I don't have any like bad memories of like acting in that movie. I know Jesse Metcalf, which is funny because like
and Pim Badley's in it.
That's what I was gonna say. Taylor Kitsch is in it as well
too. Yeah, it's a pretty decent cast. Like Brittany Snow.
Bush.
Yeah, it's a pretty decent cast. But I'm surprised it's getting a sequel. I was like, what?
Yeah, random.
All right, before we have Jackson sign us off, Mark, tell us what you have coming up on the Release Date Rewind podcast.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So you can listen wherever, or watch on YouTube, all the podcast apps. But my last episode was Cruel Intentions, like these guys did earlier this month. Next episode will be Eternal Sunshine. Maybe you'll hear a little cameo from these guys. And then April, I'm probably going to do Serial Mom, a really fun John Waters crazy murder comedy, and probably Mean Girls, because it's still so huge 20 years later. I feel like might as well talk about that compared to the movie musical. So those are coming up on the show. And you can follow me on Instagram if you'd like at Release Date Rewind.
Definitely recommend it.
Also
it's a fun show.
My
very fun show.
filmmaker Instagram is MJP_POV. So if you want to see that side of things as well, check me out there.
Well, Mark, always a blast to have you on. The show is always very happy to have you, round out our anniversaries this year. And I'm sure we'll see you again on the show as the year goes on and in the future. It's always a pleasure to have you, my friend. Gaius, as always. Great conversation, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If my calculations are correct, I believe this was episode 162 of Back to the Blockbuster. So thank you again, Mark, for joining us. I could be wrong about that. I honestly didn't look before, and I know
it's either like 161 or 162. It's like
it's one of those.
Sometimes
two.
the release schedule. Sometimes the release schedule is a little flubby, but
doesn't
it's
always
around
go
there.
with how we record. Exactly. But whatever episode you guys are listening to, we appreciate the audience. So thanks, guys. And of course, follow us wherever you guys get your social media or wherever you guys get your podcasts. And of course, go give Mark at the Release Date Rewind podcast a follow too. Definitely recommend. His content is fantastic, and we're happy to have him on the show. And until next time, guys, we will see you on Back to the Blockbuster. So take care of yourselves.